When I invented the Prio.Fit balance pods, I'd been working with Coach Duke in New Orleans, and he'd worked amongst with others amongst Deion Sanders and Shannon McCann Briggs. He had a huge pedigree of professional athletes he worked with, and he was extremely precise in how he worked with these guys. And so his idea was, in order to increase performance in game time, you had to simulate the environment that these guys played in. And so he was doing a lot of work with balance at the time. And so the idea came to me that, first of all, there was a need for, number one, to have each foot individually balanced, because you're never playing a game with 2 feet on a single platform, single surface. And the second thing is that the balance pods needed to be dynamic, in the sense that you had to be able to move with them, and you had to be able to simulate game conditions wearing balance pods while performing the skill. So that became, for me, a very needed thing. And so, I started working with them. My business partner, David Bernhardt, came up with the idea of having interchangeable um, elements on the bottom in order to change the challenges and create more dynamic challenges. And so we did that. And the more I worked, the funny thing was when I worked with athletes with the pods, what I found was a very small amount of time using the pods actually increased performance, probably more than anything else. So they didn't have to spend 5-10 minutes and all of a sudden working, let's say, tip drills with a hockey player, and all of a sudden you saw dramatic increases in the athlete's ability to make these tip plays. Stick handling was the same thing. So I saw that there was a whole lot more to balance than what I realized. As with everything, I always use myself as a guinea pig, and I found some incredible things that blew me away. So, just so you know, the first thing that I found was my vertical jump after probably 2 months using the balance pods. When I measured my vertical jump, it actually increased by 3 inches, which is supposed to be impossible with somebody my age. But I increased my vertical jump by 3 inches. And that I could understand, because you're doing a lot of calf work, a lot of Achilles work. So I figured, and it works up into the quad. So I figured that I could understand that. But the thing I couldn't understand is that on the high trainer, I have an element where I'm able to measure reaction time. Now, the thing that blew me away, I have probably about 10 years of data on myself, reaction time. I have, exactly, it's been the same score um, for those 8 years. So my best reaction time was 0.32. Just to give you, in relationship to the best I've ever saw was Edgar Jones with the Dallas Cowboys, who had a reaction time of 0.28. So I worked with the pods for 2 months. Never occurred to me that this was going to happen, by the way. And so one day I decided to do a reaction time test, and I scored 0.27. Now, this is not definitive. It's me doing data on myself, and there's nothing. I don't have large scale, but I was consistent at 0.27, 0.28. So I cut 0.04 seconds off my reaction time. Once again, at my age, it's not supposed to happen. And the only thing that I changed in my training was adding the balance pod. So it's not definitive, but it made me wonder. And once you start to understand, you start to see it more and more. There was an element of why would balance training increase reaction time? That was a question I asked myself. Then it occurred to me that because your both feet are imbalanced simultaneously, and yet they have to work together, it created, I think, a competition for bandwidth in the brain for the neuromuscular responses. And so I think, and by doing this, by creating this challenge, by creating this demand, once again, from what I'd learned from Dr. Gabala, this is not definitive, but what I learned was that by making these demands, you possibly are changing the dynamics of the mitochondria within the cell. So we know that with doing HIIT training, high intensity interval training, that